Let's go back to Michelle for a stock market update just at the IATA trading floor. Michelle?
Thanks, PJ. Well, the PSE index is still up. It's up for its second day. It's actually higher by 0.7% to 7327.09. The broader all shares also higher by 0.5% to 4302.57. You've got all sub-indices in the green, but your outperformers are being led by the industrial and property sector. Speaking of property, we have with us here in the studio actually Miss Francesca Lagerberg, who is from Thornton, and she will be talking about a real estate and construction forum. Good morning, Francesca. Thank you for joining us. So let's start with the real estate industry. What is the global trend right now?
Well, if you look globally at real estate, you've got quite an interesting trend taking place. You've got the world expanding. You've got a lot of urbanization continuing. The move to the city is bringing in a lot more people, and they need more infrastructure, they need more property, and so the real estate market has got the potential to really boom. And you're seeing about $340 billion potentially available to invest in real estate around the globe.
And this very optimistic view comes at a time when the economy is actually not doing so well.
And it is interesting. I think it's more about perception, because in that cycle of growth, when you've got building about to take place, you have to feel confident before you start those big infrastructure projects. And I think that's where we're at in the cycle at the moment.
And now from global, let's go to regional. Let's zero in on the regional. What is the trend for this region, Asia?
If you look right across Asia, there's actually a huge amount of optimism in the real estate industry. About 78% of the people we surveyed recently in the Thornton survey had amazing confidence about where Asia would go in terms of its real estate and construction. And that's higher than almost anywhere in the world. Only Africa is more confident about the future.
Why Asia?
I think it's to do with a lot of things. I think there's real potential. There's a desire to build and have infrastructure projects in this part of the world. There's clearly a government interaction taking place, encouraging inward investment. And I think it's also about confidence in the future. With 6%, 7% growth across Asia, there's a huge appetite for this type of construction.
I see. And in Asia, can you zero in? Do you have like a top pick for countries where you feel the real estate sectors will really boom?
It's really hard to pick out one single country, but let me put together three countries that seem to have an equal opportunity, and that's Vietnam, Indonesia, and of course the Philippines.
Of course,
VIP countries, and they really are living up to that title. They've got great access to talent, good access to education, right skill base, and they've also got investment. People willing to invest money in them, seeing them as a good bet for the future.
So where do you think this optimism is coming from? What are the drivers?
I think some of the core drivers there are we're coming out of a big global recession. The move towards cities means that people know there's going to be a lot of investment in the larger entities around the world. And I think it also drives out of the fact that people really want to ensure that they're on the crest of a wave, they're building in the right places, and they've seen what's happening in the BRIC countries, which are slightly slowing down, and they see this as a great opportunity for the future.
Of course, it's VIP in Asia. What are the challenges that you see in this region?
I think for almost every part of the world, and it certainly resonates in Asia as well, the main challenges tend to be around red tape and bureaucracy. When you're looking at real estate, how do you make sure that you've got the right attitude towards getting business in? How do you make sure that's not stopped by red tape and bureaucracy? And do you have the right people, the right skills in the right countries to make that building happen?
And do you think, for example, Philippines is moving in the right direction to address those challenges?
I think the Philippines appears to be doing quite a lot to encourage inward investment. The government seems to be keen to make that happen, but it's quite a long play. A lot of these projects are 2, 3, 4 years in advance, so the government needs to keep sending out those messages around it's a good place to do business.
You know, here in Manila, we've got a foreign ownership restriction on land, and it's been a problem for some foreign investors like a casino, for example. The Okada Group has not found any local partner yet, so they can't really move forward with their plan of building a casino. So restrictions such as that, what can you say about that?
Well, those kinds of restrictions around ownership are not uncommon around the globe. So construction organisations know how to handle them, know how to deal with them. But anything that helps people do business is clearly going to be for the better. So any encouragement that can be given to business, be it tax breaks, be it encouragement around investment, anything that encourages bureaucracy to be limited where it can be is always going to help. But foreign ownership rules aren't a complete barrier to growth.
So you're not supporting calls to totally do away with the foreign ownership restriction?
Well, I think you just find in many countries that those rules exist and business still can take place. I think what you are seeing globally is a move towards trying to make tax rules fit better with business, and so anything that helps that happen has got to be a good thing.
You mentioned tax. You know, Philippines has one of the highest tax rates in the region, and it's so hard. Actually, it's very discouraging for some people working because most of their take-home pay just goes to paying taxes.
Yeah, tax is one of those things that nobody wants to have to pay. It's part of being in a society, but I think there's a huge amount of international change taking place now around tax rules, driven a lot by big organizations like the OECD and by the United Nations, a harmonization of international tax rules. It's taking a very long time for that to come in. You and I might both be retired before those rules do really come into fruition. But I think that's something to keep a really good eye on, is where is tax going to go globally, because that will have a real impact in the Philippines and all over Asia.
But for a country like the Philippines where taxes are so high, how do you think, what gives? Where is the compromise?
It's a really difficult issue, I think, for any government to get that balance between getting the revenue up, and there isn't an easy answer to it, but ultimately there is a tipping point where if tax is too high, you tend to slow business growth down. So getting that balance right is really important.
Now let's talk about the Philippine real estate. There's a lot of concerns actually that we could be in a bubble already. Do you think there is a bubble?
There's no signs at all of a bubble taking place at this stage. I think with real estate that's often a major concern, is do you get a fevered market, do things start picking up too quickly? But the reality is that often that again is about perception, and so it's keeping sensible rules in place and consistency. It's about having a steady set of rules that people follow. That tends to deal with a lot of those big peaks and troughs that you get around construction.
Now we're still in our real estate sector, you feel, is still in a very healthy position.
It certainly looks like that at the moment.
All right, now let's talk about the skilled labor. Labor when it comes to construction. Do you think we have the right skills here in Manila, here in the Philippines?
I think in the Philippines you're in an incredibly good position because you have great education, you have a skilled workforce, you have people who understand the construction business. That's not true of every country, so you are in a very strong position. It's really about numbers. Can you get the right volume of people to the right jobs at the right time? But there are many countries who would look with envy on what you've got at the moment, so you're certainly in a much stronger position, and I think that resonates across several other countries in Asia as well, which takes us back to the VIP countries, all three of whom seem to have very strong skills in that area.
Let's talk about the ASEAN integration. There's going to be the integration for the ASEAN Economic Community in 2015. How is that going to impact the Philippines, whether it be the construction sector, the real estate? What do you see?
It's a huge change, isn't it? As you get to 2015, you're hitting that milestone, that linkage. It can only be good for business to have stronger trade between like-minded, forward-looking countries. And I think the real interesting element of that is these countries coming together with a common view about how to move forward. And in a continually shrinking global world, it's just essential. Asia really does need to have that linkage to make it strong.
Do you think we are competitive enough that the Philippines can compete when it comes to real estate and construction?
Certainly can compete. You've got to deliver on that. It's about turning all that desire, that confidence, that perception into reality.
Translation, the implementation, that's the
execution, always the hardest bit. But the skills are there, it's then turning it into reality.
All right, so you've got an event tomorrow, a forum. Can you tell us more about that?
We've got a CEO forum. It's combined by our firm in the Philippines, the Thornton organization, coming together, great range range of CEOs talking about real estate around the world, but also focusing in on the Asian region and the challenges and the great opportunities in this area. So we're looking forward to it.
Sounds very exciting, actually. All right. Thank you, Ms. Francesca Lagerberg, for joining us this morning.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time.
That was Ms. Francesca Lagerberg from Grant Thornton. She is the head of tax. She will be heading a forum tomorrow on real estate and construction sector. Meanwhile, I'll look at the market once again. It's still up 0.6% to 73.22.60. The broader all shares also higher by 0.5% to 4300.81. And at the foreign exchange market, the peso is stronger at 44.934 against the U.S. dollar. On the bottom of trade, we're at $66 million. Back to you, TJ.
Thanks, Michelle.